Lord Ahmed was jailed on the 25th of February this year for 12 weeks for dangerous driving. Many saw this as a remarkably harsh and somewhat unprecedented penalty. Some have argued that it is right to make an example of such a high-profile figure, who himself has sat, in fact, on a magistrate's bench. Others have seen the sentence as an attempt to silence an outspoken critic of government policy and the official discourse. Lord Ahmed was released last Friday after an appeal court accepted representations from his lawyer with the words that his was an exceptional case. I'm delighted that he has found the time to talk to us today. Lord Ahmed, welcome to Islam Channel.
Thank you very much. Wa alaikum salam.
First of all, Lord Ahmed, there were reports that your case file was flying around to different judges, most of whom were rejecting your case, and eventually there was one judge who had to be sort of parachuted in to hear the case. I've also heard, for example, that the first you heard that there was a case against you was from a journalist. To what degree do you think that the powers that be had some influence on the outcome of your trial, and in fact that the decision to impose a custodial sentence was part of a conspiracy to silence influential Muslim voices?
Well, let me first of all say that I was interviewed by the police for at least 4 times, and I cooperated on every occasion. And it was after about 10 months when the journalist called me and said that your file's going to Crown Prosecution Service and DPP for consideration, that you will be charged. And I wasn't aware, and I said, well, look, I can't comment because I'm not aware of that. And then after about a year, a journalist from The Times called me and said, you will be charged. You are charged for dangerous driving. And also he linked it in different words with the accident and the death. And he said, what do you have to say to that? And I said, well, I'm surprised because I don't know anything about it. Normally, I was a magistrate for 8 years. Normally, I know that when the police charge someone, well, first, either they are arrested. Secondly, when they are charged, they usually put the charge to them and give them the summons to court, or they deliver the summons and then it's made public. And here it was, an example for the first time that a journalist is calling me rather than the police or the authorities. Whatever happened, it did happen, and I appeared before a judge, a district judge in Sheffield on 1st of December on my first appearance, because remember that I cooperated with the police throughout this period. I gave them full information. I was helpful in every sense. There was nothing wrong with my car. I wasn't drinking. I hadn't taken any drugs. I wasn't speeding. I wasn't driving in an inside lane or anything. The accident that happened, Mr. Martin Gamba, I now know that I had been drinking and had a faulty car and had an accident in the 3rd lane, hitting the central reservation. His car had turned round. And there were 2 cars that had already gone into his car, unfortunately. Mine was the 3rd one. Having said that, normally I know as a magistrate that if a traffic offence is not brought before a magistrate within 6 months, the case has to be dropped. Mine is a dangerous driving case, goes before a judge. I plead guilty straight away. And he asked for a report, a probation report, on the day of Eid, just after Hajj. On that day, I didn't go to the mosque. I went to cooperate with the probation officer, and she apologized actually because it was Eid. She was very nice. She did the report. She talked to me for over an hour, wrote down a report, and she said that her regional manager had told her that she has to report back to him with her recommendations, and she would let me know. She didn't let me know, but she did tell my lawyers what her recommendations was. And on my next appearance, I had seen her recommendation, which was a ban for 12 months, which is mandatory, and a financial penalty, because she looked through the prison sentence, the community service, because all of these would affect my work. As you know, because I don't get paid, I spent thousands of hours a year doing my community work, whether it is to do with, I was president of Victim Support, South Yorkshire, British Heart Foundation, many charities working from Darfur, from Nigeria to Kashmir and Palestine, many other good causes that I work with, and obviously doing a community hours for 30 minutes or 30 hours or 50 hours would affect all this, which I do free of charge anyway. And so anyway, I turned up in the court. On both of these occasions, what was stunning for me was the fact that all the media, paparazzi and the photographers and the media, they filled the courtroom, and the tabloids. On the day of my crash on 25th of December, on the 26th, it was death, Muslim, peer, text, and it was all linked. And then when my file went to CPS, it was Muslim, peer, death, crash, and charge appeared. And then when I was charged, again, it was the same. And when I appeared before a court, then you had Sky TV with their vans outside and live broadcast going throughout the world. Now, you see that in the very unfortunate case of the man in Austria. You see it with mass murderers and those who do really criminal things. But I've never seen anything like it for a criminal offence. You have to admit, you have to realise that this is a charge for dangerous driving, sending a text message. Now, whatever happened afterwards, I have remorse and regret. I will always have it on my mind that there was a man who died because of whatever reason as a result of an accident. But on the charge sheet and on the police evidence, because of that, they'd gone through my telephone records and they'd got the mass reports and the scientific reports to say that I had received and sent. By the way, the media tabloid has been saying sending 5 messages. I sent 2 and I received 3. Nevertheless, they were wrong. And I admitted that and I pleaded.
So are you saying, therefore, let's just get this clear, because in an article that I think was published last week after your release, you expressed your remorse and regret. Was this some sort of admission at all of culpability in the killing of the man on the M1?
Well, let me first of all say, there was no killing. The death was accidental, bearing in mind that he had an accident because of drink drive. He was in a wrong place at the wrong time, in dark, on the motorway, in the 3rd lane. Now, it's very unfortunate what happened. But my charge is only to do with dangerous driving because I used the text message. I was the first man in this country to have been convicted for dangerous driving, sending a text message, to go to prison. Now, that's on record, and my lawyers actually stated that. But, just look at the sequence of events. That the recommendation goes to the judge from the probation, and the judge listens to the case and he sends it to Crown Court. I understand in Crown Court that none of the judges wanted to deal with it. And even the recorder didn't want to deal with it. And so a High Court judge came, who is, I think he deals with the north of England. He dealt with it. Whatever sentence he imposed, that's his right, and he did it. But I also have a right that I go to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal obviously looked at it, looked at the mitigation circumstances and quashed that prison sentence. Now, you could say, well, why didn't you apply for a bail? Quite frankly, the reason why I didn't apply for a bail was that I was shocked, stunned, and I'd gone through a horrible experience.
Look, I have to say, Lord Ahmed, I'm totally not surprised that you were shocked. I think there were many of our viewers were also shocked, and many of the individuals throughout the community would have been shocked. But you had lawyers there present at that hearing. Shouldn't they have advised, or shouldn't they have automatically requested a bail on your behalf?
Well, Carl, let me first of all say thank you to all your viewers. Thank you to Islam Channel and all your staff, yourself, Muhammad Ali, everybody, for the wonderful support that everybody's given me.
It
But
was our
you know,
obligation.
thank you very much. But my lawyers, Steve Smith is the best criminal lawyer in Rotherham, and Mr. Jeremy Baker QC is the best QC in Sheffield, and one of the best in the country actually on these matters. Both of them, on a number of occasions with my meetings, and the night before we met for about 90 minutes, we discussed the case. And when I said, what happens if he sends me down the cell? And they said, it won't happen. Well, I said, but what happens if they do it? And one of them said, it will be the last day when I have confidence in British judicial system.
So are you saying it was so unlikely that they were not prepared for it?
Well, you know, I don't know, but every time I put this question to them, they said, it won't happen, because the recommendations are that. What they were really asking, look, I've been banned on from 1st of, and that was the interim ban. It's mandatory by law. I'd put my hand to it. I'd pleaded guilty, and I knew that I would get a 12-month ban. They could have actually imposed a 15 or 18-month ban, but it was one-year ban. I was mentally prepared, and the only thing we needed to consider was how much fine I was going to pay. And, you know, I'd bought my train ticket. I was going back to work.
Well, yeah, coming to that in a moment, actually, Lord Ahmed. You pleaded guilty to the charge of dangerous driving, as you pointed out, and the Crown Prosecution Service accepted that you were blameless in the collision, which caused the death of a man on the M1. The judge in the appeal hearing actually said that clearly that you were neither legally or morally responsible for that accident. Yet the majority of the newspapers were consistent in presenting a picture of culpability in this accident, in the death of the man on the motorway. They were consistent in carefully associating your sentence with the death of the man, showing pictures of the widow in tears and the little sentence that you had received. Now, why do you think it is that the press adopted this attitude? Do you think it was an attempt by certain newspapers to discredit you after your recent attacks on Wilders, or the strong stance you took on the issue of the assault by the Israelis on Gaza? Or was this a natural expression of the press's indignation and feeling that the courts had perhaps got it wrong on this occasion?
Well, first of all, it's very unfortunate, the language that has been used. All three judges, all three courts, the Magistrate Court, the Crown Court and the High Court judge, and the Court of Appeal, each one on every occasion said that Nazir Ahmed, because I did not use my name as Lord Ahmed, Nazir Ahmed has neither legal or moral responsibility. There is no link between his charge or his accident. There is no responsibility on him, and he's neither charged, neither is there any evidence that he was responsible for, and that's why my lawyers are now going to be suing the other drivers, the deceased insurance for the damages that happened to me, which is going ahead. So the reason is because it was because of, in fact, I had some lovely letters from some of very nice English people who've said, well, actually, if you look at this from distance, I've had some horrible ones, by the way, too, that my accident happened because of that car being there. You know, my charge in relation to sending a text message is a completely different, separate thing. Now, they have cleverly worded this, and right at the bottom, or 2/3 the way, they've said, the judge said the accident had nothing to do with it. Every article almost said that. And then, you know, what has a Jaguar, gold-coloured Jaguar, got to do with a text message that I was driving into? Now, what has my Spanish-style detached house got to do with, you know, my text message? But the very fact that the Sun printed those type of words. The pompous Lord now spends the night behind bars. This is all sensationalization, demonization. The disgraced Lord Ahmed. What disgrace? I mean, I wasn't there because I'd done anything criminal. I didn't, God forbid, rob anyone, perjury, or even, burnt something down or kill someone, or done something even more nastier than that. Mine is a traffic offence. There are thousands of people, and I admitted. I said, I'm sorry. It was a traffic offence, and please don't tell me that how many people in Britain have done traffic offences, whether they've been caught, even in this noble place. And in the other place, actually, I was reading in the newspaper, one MP in the other side actually had an accident with a army major and broke his neck and got fined of £500 coming out of the Houses of Commons. And that army major has got a broken neck for the rest of his life, and he got £500 fine. And mine was, as a result of that, there was nothing. Okay? And because of that, the whole world now kind of, in fact, even now, when the decision was quashed, actually the decision of the court now is released on Thursday, and you're going on the PA report, which is Friday, it was Thursday when I was released, and quite frankly, none of the reports actually said that the earlier decision had been quashed. What they said, he was released. Now, so naturally, people actually jumped to the fact that, oh, he was released. He's released because he's a lord. He's released because he enjoys the privileges that our country gives him. And had he not been a lord, he would have still been in prison. Actually, the reason why I was released was because the Court of Appeal quashed the early decision, admitting I was a magistrate for 8 years. And I tell you, none of the decisions where I sat were ever quashed by the Court of Appeal. So that just shows, if a High Court judge's decision was quashed, then I'm not so sure, whether that decision was...
So why do you think, look, this information was available to the media, why do you think they were almost, to a man, consistent in painting this picture? What was their reason for that?
Well, isn't it a fact that whenever something happens, the tabloid newspapers blow things out of proportion, and anything to do with the Muslims, anything to do with ethnic minorities, anything to do with non-white middle class, whether it is the white working class, whether it is an Asian, black, Muslim, the media normally does these things. Now, is it right? Because the media actually, when Salman Rushdie was given knighthood, one newspaper, Daily Telegraph, actually printed a story and said that Lord Ahmed said that the martyrs, God forbid, I didn't, the martyrs of 9/11, if they were awarded some sort of award, what would you say? Now, I took to Daily Telegraph to court, and my lawyers wrote to them, and then they apologized, and they also gave some expenses and a little bit of compensation for my charity, which is a school which I run in Kashmir. The very fact that they did that, this was done on a big front page story, and the apology was about 3 lines in page 74 or whatever, 24 or page 20, whatever it was. It's a normal thing that happens in...
Many would argue that our press in particular, without the presence of something the equivalent of Ofcom for a press, I have a power without responsibility. And sadly we've seen many cases where those who've got the resources are able to challenge some of this in the courts. But let me go back to something that you mentioned earlier. You said that on the day of the appeal hearing, you'd actually purchased a ticket to travel to London after the hearing. Clearly that indicates your consideration of what you expected on the day. Can you just tell us more details of what you expected to be the outcome?
Well, first of all, I'd just come back from Umrah on Monday, the 23rd. And in the House of Lords, I had a meeting on Gaza, and I chaired that meeting. And then I had a meeting about Mumbai attacks. I attended that, and then I stayed overnight in London. And the next day I went to consult with my lawyers. And when they gave me the kind of confidence that, yeah, fine, you know, after the court, we will drop you off at the train station, I had the tickets. Quite frankly, when I left home in the morning, my grandchildren were there. I told my wife that I'll call her once I get to London. And didn't even worry, I didn't even want her to think or even remember that I'm going to court. I just hugged the children, kissed them and said goodbye, that they're going to school. And I said to my wife, I'll call you when I get to London, because I didn't want to remind her that I'm going to court. And I went to court alone. You know, normally with the Asian or other people who think that they've got lots of supporters, you would have walked in. I didn't want to do that. I'd never used my name as Lord Ahmed.
So it's reasonable to say you were somewhat shocked when you heard the sentence.
It's not really, it is absolutely right. I was shocked, I was horrified, I was stunned. I just didn't know what had happened. I looked around, it was almost a silence.
Describe the process. I mean, what did they just take you down at that point? What happened?
Obviously, I know, because I was a magistrate, once the deliberations are delivered, that you stand up, walk away, and they take you down into the cell straight away. As I walked inside, the man said, step on one side, and I had to pull my hand out, and handcuffs went on and took me down into the cells. And as I went down the steps, there's a desk, and there were 2 or 3 officers there, and I had to take off my belt, I had to take off my tie, I had to take off my cufflinks, I had to take off my watch, empty my pockets completely, and then I gave my name and an address, date of birth and identity. They put everything in the safe and then took me into a little cell, which obviously is made for remand prisoners, which is quite noisy. There are steel doors, there's nothing in the room.
What was going through your mind when you were...
To be honest, it was just horrible words of what I was hearing again and again. I was hearing those words say from the judge to say, I have thought long and hard about your case. I think it was about 2 seconds actually, because he didn't retire. And as my barrister sat down, he started with the words, Nazir Ahmed, I thought long and hard about your case. So, I mean, you know, it was those type of things and what he'd said and what happened. But more importantly, the huge media on the side, up in the gallery, outside, was something that obviously worried me. And I wanted my solicitor to go and talk to them so they don't sort of start making their own judgments, because I know that they've done that in the past. And when my solicitor, Steve Smith, who's been an excellent solicitor, came down to talk to me and said, look, we're going to, Jeremy said that we need to appeal straight away. Do you want us to apply for bail? And I said, no, I don't want you to apply for bail. I just want you to go ahead and, and he said, well, that's fine. Because what I didn't want was an embarrassment if my appeal had failed for me to be arrested again and taken down to the cells again. This was enough experience. Now I'm calm. I'll stay there. And quite frankly, they said, well, appeal takes 4 to 5 months.
Lord Ahmed, we've just got to go to a break very quickly. We'll be back in just a moment. Salom alaikum. Join us in 1 moment.